Let's discuss perpendicular lines. So two lines are perpendicular if they intersect each other at 90 degrees. So we'll say, let's say this is line L1 and this is line L2. So we'll say line L1 is perpendicular to line L2, right? Or line L2 is perpendicular to line L1. Perpendicular means that they intersect each other at 90 degrees, right? So what is the property of perpendicular lines? That the gradients are negative reciprocal of each other. That the gradients are negative reciprocal of each other. We know what a reciprocal is. For example, I write 4. So what is the reciprocal of 4? It's simply 1 over 4. Let's say I write minus 3. So what is the reciprocal of minus 3? So this is minus 1 over 3. Let's say I write 2 over 3. So what is the reciprocal of 2 over 3? This is 3 over 2, right? So I hope the concept of reciprocal is clear. Right? So what is the property? That the gradient of perpendicular lines is negative reciprocal of each other. For example, let's say the gradient of line L1 is, for example, E, right? And we're writing M1 so that this is gradient of line 1. So according to the property, we know that line L2 is perpendicular to this line L1. So the gradient of line L2 will be negative reciprocal of the gradient of this line. So that means the gradient of this line would be, we'll multiply this with minus sign, negative, and simply take the reciprocal of this. So the gradient of the perpendicular line will be minus 1 over e, right? I'll give another example. Let's say gradient of line L1 is 2. The gradient of line L1 is 2. So what will be the gradient of the perpendicular line? Negative reciprocal of this. So we'll multiply with a negative sign. So the gradient M2 will be minus, right? We'll multiply with a minus sign and simply take the reciprocal of this. So this will be minus 1 over 2. Please remember that gradient of perpendicular lines is negative reciprocal of each other, right? I'll give another example. Let's say gradient of line L2 is minus 3 over 2, for example. So if the gradient of line L2 is minus 3 over 2, so what is the gradient of line L1? We know that both the lines are perpendicular. And now we have learned the property that the gradients are negative reciprocal of each other, right? So the gradient of line L1 will be, we'll multiply with a negative sign. That means the sign will be reversed. So this will be plus, and we'll take the reciprocal of this. So 3 over 2, the reciprocal will be 2 over 3. So I hope the concept of gradient is pretty clear. Please don't forget the property that the gradient of the perpendicular lines is negative reciprocal of each other, right? Let's take a look into a question. Right, let's have a look at this question. Find the equation of the line which, A part, passes through this point 3, 4 and is perpendicular to this line, right? So again, because we know it's perpendicular to this line, and this line is written in the standard form y is equal to mx plus c. Y is the subject, the coefficient of y is 1. So we can directly take the gradient, right? So because the line we're trying to find the equation which is passing through this point, so it is perpendicular to this line. So the gradient of this line is 1. So what will be the gradient of the perpendicular line? Negative reciprocal. So we know 1 over 1, if you take the reciprocal of 1, so 1 over 1 is also 1. So when you take the reciprocal of 1, it would be 1. So negative reciprocal. So the gradient of the perpendicular line will be minus 1. I hope this is pretty simple because of the property, right? Because the gradient of perpendicular lines is negative reciprocal of each other. So we got the gradient of the first line, which is 1, and the gradient of the perpendicular line would be negative, and you simply take the reciprocal of the number, right? So you got the gradient, you've got the coordinate, a point on the line, so this point will fulfill the equation of the line. So what is the equation of the line? Y is equal to mx plus c. We'll evaluate c, simply plug in the values. So we'll plug 4 in y, we'll plug 3 in x. And we've got the gradient, which is minus 1. So 4 is equal to minus 1 into 3 plus c. So this is minus 3 plus c, and we'll shift that on the other side. So this will become 7. So c is 7. So what is the equation of this line? Y is equal to mx plus c, the standard equation of a straight line. Simply plug in the values of gradient and the y-intercept. So this is y is equal to, gradient is minus 1, so minus x and plus 7. So this is the equation of the straight line passing through the point 34 and which is perpendicular to this line. I hope this is pretty simple. Let's take a look to a very similar question. Find the equation of the line which passes through minus 1, 6 and is perpendicular to this line. So once again, because the two lines are perpendicular, so the gradient of this line is 4. Because it is in the standard form, the coefficient of y is 1 and y is the subject. So whatever is the coefficient of x, that reflects the gradient, right? So we've got the gradient. So what will be the gradient of the perpendicular line? So the gradient of perpendicular line will be negative reciprocal of this. So you multiply with the minus sign and your reciprocal of 4 will be 1 over 4. So this will be the gradient of the line which is perpendicular to this, right? And which is passing through the point minus 1, 6. And it has a gradient of minus 1 over 4. So that means it would be sloping downwards. So that means it would be sloping downwards. So because we have learned this before, if you haven't seen that video, please go to the video of gradients and have a look at that. Okay, so the gradient is minus 1 over 4, right? So we've already discussed this. Because this point is lying on the same straight line and the gradient is minus 1 over 4, you just have to simply plug in the values. So I'm going to erase this so that we can solve this part here, right? Right. So what will be the equation? Y is equal to mx plus c, right? So we've got the point on the line. That means this will satisfy its equation. So we'll plug in minus 1 in x and 6 in y. So this will be 6 is equal to, gradient is minus 1 over 4, x is minus 1 plus c. So this is minus into minus is plus and plus c. And this is a term when you shift that on the other side, this fraction will be negative. So we'll just simply take the LCM. So c will be 24 minus 1, which is 23 over 4, right? So c will be 23 over 4. We have the calculators. You can also calculate with the calculator as well. So we've got the gradient. You've got the y-intercept. You'll simply plug in the original equation, which is y is equal to mx plus c. So y is equal to, gradient is minus 1 over 4, x, and c is 23 over 4. So that completes the concept of perpendicular lines. I hope you've enjoyed the video. You've learned the concept of perpendicular lines. So if you have any questions, please tell me in the comments.